As long as evil exists, Mumm-Ra lives. Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals. That's a great line, but unfortunately, I can't do it as good as him. So welcome to the last review in my series of Thundercats Ultimates Wave 1 reviews. First I talked about Lion-O and I talked a little bit about the line. Then I reviewed Panthro. And I went over all of his accessories with screenshots from the show and explained where the accessories he had came from. Same thing with Jackalman. I reviewed Jackalman and explained where all of his accessories came from with screenshots from the show. And I'll be doing that again now with Mumm-Ra. So sit back, relax, and I'll talk about this brand new Mumm-Ra. I'll talk about how he compares to the classics Mumm-Ra, and I'll compare him to the LJN toy, compare him to some stuff from the show, and just talk a lot about Mumm-Ra here. Now Mumm-Ra here obviously was released before in the classics line. Only his, now he's got a new head, he's got a new cape, and he's got a brand new paint job. And, that's pretty cool. And, in the original line, you got the Mumm-Ra figure if you entered in the subscription for Thundercats Classic. So you couldn't buy him separately. And now he was just regularly a part of Wave 1. So you could order him alone right off the bat. So in this guy, he was originally put up for pre-order back in August of 2019. And he didn't come out until September of 2020. So it took a year for you to get him in hand. And, it took a while, but I think he's pretty cool. I think he hit this new Mumm-Ra figure has a lot to offer. And when you first got him, he came in this very cool Mumm-Ra brown mailer, and it's very nice. And it says Thundercats on the front, and on the back it just has a bunch of information that nobody cares about, but it's there, right? When you open up your brown mailer box, you find this awesome packaging, and you can't really see it that great here, but there you go. On the front here, you can see it has a Mumm-Ra, the Ever-Living's symbol on it, which is very awesome. The mummy doesn't have that symbol on it, only when he gets big and buff. And, this is a slipcover. It's pretty awesome. Gives you some nice extra protection for your figure inside. A lot of protection here for these guys. And, you take that out, and you got the package inside, and you have a very nice big window so you can see your figure in there with all the cool accessories surrounding him. Use your imagination. You have the white splatter in the background, just like the old Thundercats toys from the 80s. And on the back, you have this awesome painting from back in the day. And down at the bottom, it has a little bio here. It says, Mumm-Ra. Oh, come on, man. Jeez. Mumm-Ra is the Thundercats' evil adversary, mummified and otherwise weak. He is energized and made immortal as a servant to the spirits of evil, who grant him magical and transformative powers to carry out their wicked bidding. So here's Mumm-Ra with all of his accessories, and boy, does he have a lot of really cool accessories. Some of these are very episode-specific, and other ones are ones that show up here and there. And one of them doesn't even show up in the cartoon. He never has that staff. That's from something else. But we'll talk about that later. And before we get into the figure and the accessories, first let's talk a little bit about Mumm-Ra. Mumm-Ra is an ancient being of evil who calls on even more ancient spirits of evil to transform into Mumm-Ra, the Ever-Living. I always really thought that the ancient spirits of evil that he, I guess prays to or calls for help, I always loved the designs of those statues. They look pretty creepy in the cartoon. And of course, when he turns into the Ever-Living, he looks amazing and scary. I always liked that at first he looked very weak and frail, but he could always transform into this large monstrosity and be a huge threat to Lion-O and the other Thundercats. Now, the first time the mutants ever enter the Black Pyramid, where Mumm-Ra lives, they look around inside his tomb and they see the statues of the ancient spirits of evil. And while they are talking amongst themselves, they say how the ancient spirits of evils, they're actually statues of ancient mutants. At first, Mumm-Ra's weakness is the sight of his own reflection, but later on the Thundercats have to defeat him with other means. Mumm-Ra has lived for over 1,000 years on Third Earth. In the episode Mumm-Ra, Mumm-Ra mentions that when the Thundercats crashed on Third Earth, they actually invaded his home, which is an interesting perspective because he was there first, and they're kind of like the invaders or the unwanted people, even though the people of Third Earth love the Thundercats. Basically, the whole rivalry of why, Mumm-Ra wants to destroy the Thundercats is that he wants to get the Eye of Thundarr. In his first appearance, which is the second episode of the series, The Unholy Alliance, he tells the mutants that he is known about the Eye of Thundarr for years. So, he knows about it, and he wants the Eye of Thundarr because he thinks it's going to give him power. But unfortunately, there's lots of times where he does get access to the sword, but he can't do anything with it because the Sword of Omens will not, it will not obey evil. I've always loved Mumm-Ra. Back in the day, some villains were played as goofballs, but Mumm-Ra was one of those villains that, he was never played for laughs. He always seemed threatening, and he was always taken very seriously. Another great thing about Mumm-Ra is that they don't overuse him in the first 65 episodes. I looked it up, and I think he appears in 38 out of 65. And even out of those, some of them he just kind of shows up in the beginning or the end to set up a different threat against the Thundercats. So a lot of Thundercats episodes aren't as redundant as a lot of other 80s cartoon shows where, you have the main guy has to fight the main villain in every single episode. It's like he's used sparingly, and the way they use him is just more clever, and, it's more exciting and enjoyable. Yeah, he kind of looks naked without that hood and cape, but for the sake of talking about the sculpt and the articulation, we got to do it. So, first of all, I want to say I really like this sculpt a lot. I feel like the face on him looks so much like Mumm-Ra in the show, and I really like how they did all the bandages and wraps around his body. Like, they didn't do it too uniform. So it appears as though it's more natural, like you have thicker straps or wraps and bandages and whatever you want to call them, and thin ones, small, big ones, all that. Some of them of every size. So it doesn't seem boring. It seems nice and natural. Unlike all the other characters from Wave 1, I'm pretty sure that, none of this sculpt is reused from any other Masters of the Universe Classics toys. Now, I could be wrong because I don't have an extensive collection of Masters of the Universe, but are there any mummies besides I can't remember that mummy's name, but the one Super7 released that, had a big body. But so, Mumm-Ra here, he looks like a brand new sculpt, and he's pretty awesome. Like I said, I like the wraps all over him. I like how you have these extra wraps just wrapped around him. I think that adds a nice little hint of extra detail, and yeah, I think he's cool. I really like the Mumm-Ra face, but here's something. When you were watching this, as a kid or anything like that, did you ever kind of get the sense that maybe Mumm-Ra kind of looked like a monkey a little bit? I always felt like he kind of has maybe a chimp face or something. I guess he's supposed to just be a human mummy, but I don't know. I always kind of got that from him. Now in the back here, you do have these cool straps that go from one side of his arms to the other, and that kind of does hinder his movements a little bit. Lots of times you want to get if you don't want to have him kind of brooding in the shadows and looking evil, you might want to have him lift up his arms and kind of, as he's calling upon the ancient spirits of evil to give him power. So you just kind of have to work with it a little bit. I would say be careful because you don't know if this is going to pop out of here and break or what. And then even here where you kind of have the bandage wrap dress or whatever you want to call it, skirt, it just looks awesome. It looks great. And, even though he is a smaller figure than the other Masters of the Universe Classics and Thundercats Ultimates figures and all that kind of stuff, he still has a pretty decent amount of articulation. So he's got a ball joint in the head, and you can easily pop that head off of there to put the new head on or switch the capes out. You have a rotation in the shoulders, and you have a hinge there. And you have actually, he's got a little, no, that's not true. Because the Lino, he's got a bicep cut. And Mumm-Ra does not have that, but he has a swiveling elbow with the hinge in the elbow there. And down at the wrist, you just have a swivel, and you have the hinge. And he doesn't have an ab crunch, but he does have a twisty waist. His legs, they look... Okay, I don't think he has a hip. Yeah, he doesn't have a hip cut or anything like that. So you can only kind of... There's a hinge there. You can only move it out this direction, or it has rotation, so you can rotate it front and back. But you can't do any kind of 360 turns. Now, the knees, however, do have a hinge, and they also have a swivel. So you can get you can move that around. I wouldn't push it too far, though, because it looks like, you know, it might pop out of there or something. You don't have a boot cut, but you do have ankle rockers and a hinge at the ankle. Now, I will talk about the cape more a little later, but like when you put the cape on this guy, look how awesome he looks. You know, he definitely has that Mumm-Ra appearance that we all love from the cartoon. And you know, even though I think he has an awesome sculpt, this Thundercats Ultimates figure from Super7, of course, it's just, you know, depending on who you talk to, he's a little controversial. Why? Well, not because of the sculpt, but because of the color. In the cartoon, Mumm-Ra kind of has more of a, like a, I don't know if you call that like a dark aqua or like a grayish blue kind of color. But when you look at the color on this toy, he's very, very bright blue. So that is a little different. There are some episodes where he does appear bright blue like that. It's just, you know, it just depends on which episode you're watching. Sometimes the colors change a little bit. The other thing is that, you know, in the cartoon, a lot of times they put shadows or heavy shadows all over the cape, and it looks kind of like a dark red. And, you know, of course, this toy has kind of like this bright red color. And, you know, but if you do look at some episodes, he kind of, his cape looks bright red here. So, you know, it's just a mix here. So why did they give him these bright colors, other than possibly trying to match some episodes of the cartoon? Well, I think maybe they were trying to match the LJN figure a little bit. Like, even though his face is not really bright blue, it's kind of like, I guess that's some kind of green. I feel like he's more in line with this, more of the bright red cape and stuff like that. You know, I think that maybe Super7 was intending this to be kind of like one of those variants. Like, they have their reaction series where they'll have a character like Mumm-Ra, and he'll have like classic colors, or he'll have the LJN colors, you know. So it's kind of, maybe they were expecting that people would have the Matty Classics Mumm-Ra, and they just wanted to change this one a little bit just to make it a little different and make it a little bit more exciting to pick up, I guess. But, you know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think maybe that's kind of what they were going for with this. So now we're up to the point where we compare him to the Matty Classics version. And like I said before, you know, his skin color, I think, matches more of the show than this one does. It definitely has that more like subdued kind of bluish gray color. And what do you call this? Is this a aqua? I don't know. And then other than the paint scheme, like, there really is no difference here. They both have the same exact sculpt. They don't even have different hands. Like, the new Lion-O, Panthro, and Jackalman all had new sculpted hands that were way better than the original one. These hands are fine, and like I said, he has all the same stuff. If you look at the face here, his eyes are a lot bigger than this Mumm-Ra's. I don't know, like, you can kind of see the line a little bit where it's unpainted, where this one kind of fills all the way into the side. That might be more of like a preference kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know which I prefer with the eyes here. Although I will say that the mouth is done better on the Super7 one. They actually painted the teeth correct. On this one, it looks like they kind of painted over the teeth with the skin color on the top of the mouth, which is a bummer. And there's also just like a sloppy paint job on the chin and all that kind of stuff. But on this one, it is relatively clean. It's pretty good. This might feel a little thinner than this. Now, when you're actually looking at the wrappings, the biggest difference here is that this is kind of like a solid color, and then there's kind of a dark wash on top of that. This is sort of like that, except it looks as though there's actual brush strokes on it. It actually looks, if there is a wash on it, it's kind of, maybe it's thicker or something like that. It actually appears like there's a little bit, you know, like feathered brush strokes on it or something like that to make it appear more like cloth. And, you know, that's pretty cool. And then, like, other than that, like, there's not much difference. You know, obviously you have a different cape color for both of them. And, I think both of them are very good, and I think no matter which one you get, I don't know. No, I wouldn't say that. For me, I would lean towards the Super 7 one because you do have the fabric cape. Because like this cape, like it's hard to get it to sit right on his head, and this one I feel kind of, you can cover up his face more to make him appear, you know, more mysterious and hiding in the darkness. So both Mumm-Ras come with the same amount of hands, and just like I said before, the same exact hands. They both have the same set of gripping hands, and they both have a set of, you know, expression hands, or bigger gripping hands, or reaching out hands. One thing the Classics figure doesn't have is this awesome, you know, yelling face, screaming face of Mumm-Ra. Like, this looks awesome. You know, I could totally see Mumm-Ra yelling at the mutants, like, you know, scolding them for not succeeding in their job of trying to get the Eye of Thundarr for him, or him yelling at Lion-O like, "I'll get you, boy," sort of thing. And so if you want to change the head, it's a little tricky, but, you know, it's not too hard. It's actually easier popping the head on here with the fabric cape than the rubber one, because it just kind of gets in the way. But I just kind of lift up underneath the chin, and it easily pops off. And see, so you put the cape on first, and then get the head in that little tiny peg. Did it go in there? No, I didn't have it. There you go. You want to hear that pop. But now he's good to go, and, you know, he looks awesome. And, you know, that's the thing about, you know, like I said, I prefer the cape on this one over the Classics one, and I prefer this awesome face. Like I'm never gonna display him with this regular face now. I'm always gonna display him like this, being creepy and angry. So both Mumm-Ras come with their closed cape, and you know, I think that this is very cool. It's like a very nice expression for Mumm-Ra to have. You know, you'd want him to be the kind of guy who would, and like, I will say this too, it is hard to pop the heads onto this joint with these hard capes, just because you have to push down through this onto the head to pop it onto that peg. So I did not push the heads down all the way onto there, just because I'm just going to take these off in a second and put the other capes on them. But, you know, these are cool. You get a very nice look and expression of Mumm-Ra. You know, like I said, this is a pose that you'd want him to have, like half closed. But it really limits the movement because it's hard rubber. So you can't really move the arms around too much here. And hardly this one at all. Look at that. See, his head's fallen off already. So the original Mumm-Ra from the Classic series had this open cape. And this is cool. It looks good. I feel like maybe the hood is a little too big on top of the head. Like, it doesn't fit the head as tightly as you would want it to. But it's still, you know, it's still pretty cool. I don't know. With this, like this is made obsolete now because of the new cape that the new Mumm-Ra has. So I think if anything, that for the Maddie figure, I would almost prefer to display him with the closed cape, just because, like, the cape is not very, it doesn't flow very far away from his body or anything like that, and the closed cape just kind of gives him more of a Mumm-Ra look. So, like, you had this cape, and, like, this cape and the closed cape are now obsolete because you have the cloth cape, and the cloth cape is great because if you want to have Mumm-Ra here with his cloak closed, you can do that. And if you want it, like, flowing in the wind, like he's calling upon the ancient spirits of evil. You can do that, and hopefully I can do that quick enough on camera to show you. Something like that, you know? And like you do kind of have to play around with it a little bit, but it is kind of easy to use this. You know, you have a cloth cape, but you have a wire that goes all the way around the brim of it, for up there, down here, all the way through the thing. So you can pose it how you want, and, you know, it just offers you a ton of options. I think it's a really, really great cape, and you can, you know, make Mumm-Ra look as imposing and as threatening as you want with it. By the way, if you didn't know, there's also a glow-in-the-dark Mumm-Ra action figure that Super7 put out, I think at the end of last year, maybe around November or something like that. And I'm pretty sure it's still available on Big Bad Toy Store if you want it. And, you know, that glow-in-the-dark Mumm-Ra has a darker, soft goods cape. So, you know, if you want to use that on this guy, you can. Although, I will say this, that the way that, and this could just be mine, I don't know, but the way that the stitching is on the hood, I don't think is as good as this one. Like, this one kind of fits his head pretty tight, which is nice. And this one kind of makes it a little bigger than I think it should be. So, you know, maybe it's not like that in all of them, but it's like that on mine. And like I said, I think this one looks better. But if you want to see a more in-depth look at the glow-in-the-dark Mumm-Ra, I have a review of him. And I do a very in-depth comparison of him, the regular Ultimates Mumm-Ra and the Classics Mumm-Ra. So now we get to talk about all the cool accessories and somewhat kind of like weapons of Mumm-Ra. First, you have this awesome staff, and this staff never appeared in the cartoon. I'll tell you what it's appeared on. You probably know if you already have Thundercats toys, but I will talk about where its origins are. But first, I just want to talk about the differences here, right? You have the Super7 one on the left, and you have the Matty one on the right. Now, the Matty one's colors are a little bit more, I don't know, there's more of like a matte finish. It's not very shiny, and the color's a little more subdued. Where this one, the Super7 one, the reds are a brighter red, and the blacks are a darker black. So things stand out a lot more on the Super7 one. Not to mention the paint is done a lot better. So like his teeth, you can actually make out his teeth a little better, where the teeth on the Matty one are a little goopy. Like you lose some of that definition in there because it's I wouldn't say it's sloppy, but like you could actually see it's like colored on top of the lip here, where here you can see a very distinct, very clear line of where the teeth are. And it goes all the way down to here. And this is something I just found out. Did you know that the heads, okay, maybe not on that one, but on the Super7 one, the head turns around. So, is it supposed to do that? I don't know. This Matty one doesn't turn, but the Super7 one does. So, awesome. So where does the staff come from? If not from the show, well, it comes from the original LJN toy line. You can see it here. Obviously, the old one is a lot more simpler. It doesn't have all these extra details and stuff like that. Still very cool, but I don't know. The new one is just really awesome. Mumm-Ra can very easily hold on to this staff. His grip works very well on it. You know, he could grab it and you can hold it above him, and it doesn't really slip around or anything like that. Not to mention his wrist is actually pretty tight, which is good. So you can actually have him, you know, hold it in different directions. I don't know if you'd necessarily want to, but it's nice that he just doesn't have a very loose wrist like some other action figures. The final accessory that's repeating in both the Classics and the Ultimates line is the handle of the Sword of Plundarr. And what's the Sword of Plundarr? Well, the Sword of Plundarr is a sword that, you know, Mumm-Ra wants to get, and he eventually does get it in the Thundercubs miniseries. And, you know, it originally used to belong to Ratilla, and, you know, it was on Third Earth when Third Earth was destroyed, so Mumm-Ra reforms Third Earth just so he could get the Sword of Plundarr. Some people have asked Super7 to make a more cartoon-accurate version of the bladeless Sword of Plundarr, and I actually saw somebody write a a reply once where they said that they wouldn't do it because it would look like a piece of poo. Like, obviously that person wasn't from Super7, but it was just such a funny answer. But, you know, this is somewhat accurate because the Sword of Omens does appear like this the Sword of Plundarr does appear like this at first. But Mumm-Ra would usually make it look like this and then like monologue for a little bit before he actually makes the blades pop out of the sides of it. So as far as I'm concerned, this is fine. You know, I think this still looks really cool. And you have the Ultimates on the left, and you have the Classics one on the right. And, you know, this brand new Super7 one, it's painted in a very nice, like, glittery, gold, bright paint. And the original Classics one is done in a more flat yellow paint. And because of that, I think the Ultimates one has outdone the Classics one. You know, it's the same exact sculpt. It just looks a lot nicer. Mumm-Ra can hold this in his hand very well, and you know, it just makes me excited to when we finally do get the regular Sword of Plundarr with the with Mumm-Ra the Ever Living. Like, I can't wait to see that thing. It looks like it's going to be huge. So now we have 3 brand new accessories, and first up we have the Fake Book of Omens. And don't get confused, it is not the regular, real Book of Omens. It is the Fake Book of Omens. So the Fake Book of Omens shows up in at least 2 storylines that I'm aware of. Its first appearance is in Thundercats Part 4, which is also the first appearance of the regular Book of Omens. And in that episode, Mumm-Ra makes the Fake Book of Omens and gives it to the mutants so that he can send them out and distract the Thundercats while he stays in his lair and tries to decipher and understand the real Book of Omens. The mutants don't know it, and neither do the Thundercats. Mumm-Ra also uses the Fake Book of Omens in the episode Return to Thundera Part 1. In that episode, he travels to the center of New Thundera. He disguises himself as Jaga, and he uses the book to trick Jagara into... Yeah, I have to think... Like, sometimes it's hard to pronounce these people's names. Into thinking the Thundercats are evil, so he can steal the planet's gyroscope, which, you know, causes the planet to go all out of whack and whatnot. And that's a pretty cool miniseries too. And you know, Jagara is the guardian of New Thundera, and you know, she's not very good at her job. If you were curious, it is easy to get a book into his right hand, but it is kind of difficult getting a book into the left because these you know, his pinky and his ring finger on this side are not really big enough to really get a good grip on stuff. Like, you can kind of mess around with it and get it in there, but the right side holds bigger items a lot better. And this is not the regular smaller gripping hand. This is the more bigger or claw hand, or, you know, reaching hand. Up next, you have the THUNDRAINIUM Urn. And if you don't know what THUNDRAINIUM is kind of like the Thundercats' kryptonite. It drains their power and leaves them weak. And, you know, it's not good for the Thundercats. And this appears in the episode Together We Stand. Mumm-Ra has, like I said, he has THUNDRAINIUM in this. And he calls Hammerhand and the Berserkers to his lair, where he asks them to join forces with him. And he offers them to give them power, so they can easily defeat the Thundercats and take over Third Earth. And how does he give them this power, you ask? Well, he takes this urn filled with THUNDRAINIUM, and he throws it into his magical cauldron. And once the Berserkers jump in and swim around, they're coated in THUNDRAINIUM, and, you know, that just spells disaster and danger for the Thundercats. So Mumm-Ra can hold this urn very well, usually with 2 hands. If you hold it with 1 hand, because the handle is a little thin, it kind of, you know, droops. So it's just kind of nice putting both gripping hands on it and holding it like this. And, you know, this thing looks awesome. Like, I love the painted detail on it. Like, it looks very much like how it appears in the cartoon. And there's just, you know, it's just very clean and nice looking. And that leaves us with the last accessory, the ROSENCRANTZ Medallion. And what's the ROSENCRANTZ Medallion? Well, it appears in the episode The Zax Factor. And that's a pretty late episode. I mean, that's like the 3rd to last episode in the whole series. So this is a pretty obscure piece of equipment right here. And essentially, the Rosencrantz medallion was worn by Zax. Zax was an evil being who used to reign over the southern hemisphere of Third Earth, while Mumm-Ra reigned over the northern hemisphere. At some point before the Thundercats came to Third Earth, Mumm-Ra and Zax got into a big battle, and Mumm-Ra stole the Rosencrantz medallion from Zax's body, and this destroyed Zax's physical form and sent his soul inside of the medallion. So now Mumm-Ra hides the medallion inside of his crypt, and Vulture Man learns about this Rosencrantz medallion, and I think partially because Zax is like a bird creature, Vulture Man is like, I like this guy, I need to get this, and I'll get the power of this medallion. And he thinks with the power of the medallion, he can not only destroy the Thundercats, but he can also destroy Mumm-Ra. So he goes and he takes the medallion from Mumm-Ra's crypt, but unfortunately for Vulture Man, what he doesn't know is that the whoever wears the Rosencrantz medallion will then slowly turn into Zax. That's a pretty awesome episode that happens right at the end of the series. I thought it was pretty cool. What's pretty neat about it is I don't remember in any other episode off the top of my head that I can think of where you actually learn that Mumm-Ra has a little hidden room behind that little crypt or tomb of him. I always thought that he just kind of, goes into his sarcophagus and hides in there. But no, there's that little secret door that leads him inside. I thought he was just sleeping, standing up all the time, and that's why he was in such a bad mood. I didn't realize he had a whole cool room back there where he could hang out and hide his evil little trinkets. So it's pretty cool getting such an obscure item that, I don't know. If you know what it is, it's easy to figure it out and find that episode, but it's just cool, that they're kind of throwing all these cool things to Thundercats fans. And this looks very nice. I think the only thing that could have made it possibly better is if you kind of had a little tiny picture of Zax in the middle of it. But beggars can't be choosers. And, the paint job on the medallion looks pretty nice. And with that, I'm done with Wave 1. Yes, finally. And, I do like Wave 1 a lot, but, we've seen all these action figures before. So it is awesome getting all these brand new accessories like the cool mutant guns with Jackalman, the different Book of Omens, all of Panthero's cool little welding gear and stuff like that. But I'm ready to get Wave 2 and Wave 3 and Wave 4. So I hope Super7 hurries up here and gives me something new, because seriously, like I have all these classic figures, and getting these guys again was just kind of like getting the same guys again, right? So I can't wait for the next figures to come out, and I can't wait to see what's coming out in Wave 5 and 6. Like I said, I think that there are some pluses here with this Mumm-Ra. You may not like the bright blue of his skin tone, but I think it looks good. I think that the wraps still look good, and I like the brand new soft goods cape and all the extra accessories and this screaming face. I love all these angry screaming faces on these Thundercats action figures. I think they look great when they're fighting and battling. It definitely fits the look you want to have with these guys. So here's one last thing before I go. Here's a look at the brand new Ultimates Mumm-Ra next to the original LJN Mumm-Ra. Now, I never had Mumm-Ra. I said this before in the beginning of my my Lion-O video. I never had really any Thundercats toys growing up. I only had Slythe, and I watched the cartoon all the time. I didn't even really remember seeing Thundercats toys ever. So, having this now, it's cool, but obviously I think, this is a lot better. I mean, the face on this guy, looks more like a skull than it really does look like Mumm-Ra. And the face and the expression on this guy just look so much like that cartoon, it's ridiculous. Even this guy is just completely mummified, his body under there. And, this one you have all these different parts where his legs are sticking out. You can see his feet and his hands, just like the show. I don't know. It's just always awesome seeing how far we've come from in the past. Almost 40 years now of toy design, and yeah, I don't know. This new one is just amazing. So, thanks for watching, and let me know what you think. You know, I can't wait to see a fully transformed Mumm-Ra, the Ever-Living, in hands. And also a fully transformed Sword of Plundarr. I think, you know, the promo pictures look awesome for those guys. And, you know, it's just a bummer that we're probably going to have to wait until June. So 3 months. I don't know if I can wait that long. But yeah, you know, making the series of Thundercats reviews was pretty fun because I love watching the cartoon a lot. Like, it's one of my favorite cartoons of all time. It's definitely in my top 5, along with Real Ghostbusters, DuckTales, Batman the Animated Series, and I can't remember what my other one is. But anyways, it was fun because I got to go through the whole cartoon and skim through it and try to find all these obscure accessories. Because like some of them are really easy, like the ROSENCRANTZ medallion. You just look up that and you can figure it out. That's in the Zax factor. But you know, when you're looking up Mutant Gun 1 and Mutant Gun 2, you know, that gets a little tricky. Now, one of the mutant guns was very easy to find, but one of them was a pain in the neck. And some of Panthro's stuff was kind of a pain in the neck, too, to find. But so if you want to know what any of that stuff is, go check out my other videos. And I explain with screenshots and show you where they appear. That Fibro Welder, that welding gun, was such a pain in the neck trying to find that. So thanks a lot, and talk to you later.